And then it's just about innovating. Like, I think people get overwhelmed because they're like, I need to reinvent the wheel. And I have to create something that hasn't existed before. And that's also great. It's great to do that, especially in a very crowded space. It's awesome to differentiate. It's awesome to stand out. But you can just innovate and make something better that is, again, just so true to your brand.
Welcome back to OK Sister podcast. My name is Mads.
My name is Scout. And
what is OK Sister in French?
we haven't learned sister yet on Duolingo.
Oh yeah, you're doing Duolingo.
Yeah.
Does Lily do Duolingo?
She does Duolingo with me because Duolingo, when you get an answer right, it goes bing.
Does she not? She doesn't even know English yet. Now she's learning French?
You know what? That's fake news. She does know English. She understands what I say, and she communicates back to me. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. She just sits there on my lap, and she listens to me say, "Un garçon et un homme mange une orange.
Un garçon et un homme.
Un cheval, comment ça va? Salut.
What?
Bienvenue."
Wait, what's un cheval?
A horse.
This is the thing about Duolingo.
No, we're having conversations.
When are you going to say horse?
No, we have conversations.
You're a horse girl now?
Bonjour, Mady. Comment ça va? Ça va bien et toi?
Basic.
Ça va bien.
Wait. This is a really good ad for Duolingo.
Enchanté.
Enchanté. Nice to meet you.
Bonsoir.
Okay, so you literally just said, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, but
good evening.
I can read a lot of things. Like, Marie étudie ici. Marie studies here. Yeah.
Wow, not me taking AP French and remembering everything.
No, honestly, if you did Duolingo,
I would remember.
I get 90% or 100% on all my lessons.
I just can't speak it.
This helps you speak it.
But the thing is, so I am excellent at languages because I'm good at memorizing.
Yeah.
And I'm good at math, and it's basically math equations, right?
Yes.
This conjugation for this whatever equals this. I was A+ on every single test I took in AP French. The speaking. I sounded like a motherfucking fool because the French language is so specific to the speech and the accent that you sound like a fool.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty good.
No, you don't really sound great.
No, I think I do. Because well, okay, I'm just doing that for the situation.
Oh, I
but
see.
in Duolingo, they say a phrase and then you have to repeat it back.
Right. Let's get Duolingo on the pod.
I'm obsessed with Duolingo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
we got to get a sponsorship.
I'm learning French. I'm waiting for The Agency on Netflix to come back, which is the Parisian.
Dude, yes.
So good.
I didn't finish it.
Oh, what? I'm so jealous.
Okay.
There's 3 seasons or 2 seasons?
I struggle a bit with a foreign language situation because I just don't want to read.
But it's the houses. On Selling Sunset, the houses are, it's like, It's,
oh, wait. I'm thinking of something different. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that French television show that's like a scripted show about the agency.
No. This one's called The Agency. It's a reality television show of a family. The mom and dad own a real estate. A real estate company. They're realtors. And they have 4 sons. And they all work at the real estate agency.
It's like French chateaus.
And they deal with luxury clients across Europe.
Yeah.
So you are looking into $25 million flats overlooking the Eiffel Tower. We're looking at $30 million castles in the French, countryside.
Okay, yeah.
We're looking at houses in Ibiza. The houses are stunning.
This is for me. Literally, I agree with you. Selling Sunset, not me trashing the houses on Selling Sunset that I could never afford, but
no, it's like Bachelor, cocaine vibes.
It's cocaine vibes.
It's cocaine vibes
over on Selling Sunset.
This is you will.
I need to.
Adam thinks I watch the show for the French boys, as he calls them. No, I only watch the show for the fucking houses. They, then they're going to the Swiss Alps and they're showing people luxury houses there.
Yeah, we want this.
The houses are
okay. So when are we taking baby LK to France?
So it is on my 5-year vision board situation.
Great. Am I invited?
Sure.
I want to go to the south of France. I feel like I belong there.
Can you imagine Lily walking down the streets of Paris?
I don't even need to go to Paris. I want to go to the south of France.
Okay, well, I want to go to Paris.
Okay.
And we can also go to the south of France. It's also lovely there.
Yes.
I had an
You've
amazing...
never been.
Yes, I have.
Yes, you have.
I had a very specific experience.
Yeah, but you went for work. That's not fun.
But I was with Mom.
Sure.
So we went places and went shopping, and we ate at all the seaside cafes, and we went to different towns,
YSL.
and we went to YSL, and we had a great fucking time. Like,
Yeah,
we had so much fun. We were in this gorgeous Airbnb.
Yeah, I need to get myself to the south of France. You know what? Petition, mission, get Mads to the south of France.
You would definitely love the south of France.
Thrive
It was
there.
such an amazing experience because we were in the south of France when France won the World Cup.
Oh,
And I did not
that we-
understand that.
Yeah, I was gonna say not that we care about that.
I did
at
not
all.
understand that, but the party in the streets was
They do care about that there.
I did not know what it was, but I knew that I was witnessing a historical event. I was like, wow, we're really lucky to be in France when they win the World Cup. It was incroyable. Incroyable.
Magnifique.
D'accord.
No, d'accord means okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying words.
Wow, great. En cheval.
On cheval.
Okay. All right, let's get to this episode because, wow. Wowza.
Yeah, not about French, but this episode, it's a long one, and it could have gone longer.
I thought we were only talking for 45 minutes. Like, we could have
Yes,
gone another
yes.
3 hours.
Actually, you know what? We don't typically do this, but I want to
Oh,
read Heather's
her
bio.
You need to read the bio.
You got to know who we're talking to here.
She is
Okay.
expander energy.
Expander energy. Okay, here's her bio. Heather Catania. Is that Catania?
I
It's a
can't
goal.
with you.
It's
Catania. Like,
Okay.
relax.
I really am
you
not secure
stop
in this.
tripping up.
I'm sorry. I love Heather so much.
We love you, Heather C.
Heather C. Heather Catania is known as the celebrity social media secret weapon. She went from magazine editor in New York City, formerly working as the bookings editor at Nylon and Harper's Bazaar, to becoming an accidental entrepreneur and founder of a 7-figure social media agency called Social Fleur. Heather runs high-level digital storytelling, brand strategy, and content creation for a network that touches a daily reach of over 150 million people worldwide. Her brand strategy has garnished clients multi-million-dollar brand deals, product launches with major retailers, and increased influence worldwide. Her client roster includes Priyanka Chopra Jonas, Taraji P. Henson, Ashley Tisdale, Bethany Frankel, Brooke Shields, Tia Mowry, and Sara Blakely, to name a few. And as you guys will hear at the end, she's launching a new membership platform for female entrepreneurs called The Lever, launching soon. So she is, Bethany Frankel called her the LeBron James of digital.
Yeah, she's next level. And she's just so approachable, friendly. It didn't feel, like you said this in the episode, like, it didn't feel overwhelming the way she speaks to you, and it feels like you're talking to a friend.
Yes.
She breaks concepts down into such digestible tidbits, and it's inspiring to listen to her.
She also isn't someone who comes on and talks about the tactics of social media. She talks about the soul of brand building and storytelling.
Yeah.
And so I think that's such a difference in why I've fallen in love with Heather. I talk about how she's helped me, with our social strategy over at Scouts Agency. So I've worked with her in the past. But she's, and as you said, like, someone who is so humble and down to earth. She is one of the most generous human beings, because you could read that bio and you could have your nose in the air. You could only, talk to people who are celebrity brands, etc. But there's something about her that really just wants to help women succeed at business and life, and wants to collaborate over compete. And with that, she is not just a massively impressive businesswoman, but a genuine human being.
Amen.
Amen. So, ladies and gentlemen, nope, no gentlemen, except our husbands. Oh, my husband, your fiance. Sisters, let's welcome Heather Catania to the podcast. All right, we're going to have me live test the wonderful Erewhon smoothie that Heather Catania.
Yes, you
one
are
can say
so.
my name.
You
one can say my
need
name.
to not.
No.
You need to not doubt yourself. That's the thing. You're
No,
doubting yourself.
because
It's Heather Catania.
Heather and I go
Bam.
back a couple years.
Yes.
And so it's literally, I'm so embarrassed to say this, years of
you
me
haven't-
saying her last name differently in my head. And
Yeah.
also, like, people on my team, if I say one girl, like, her name I thought was this, and when she told me it was that, it just didn't fucking
Right.
compute. So
Well, you
I
also
apologize.
had a Heather on your team. So
Yeah.
when we were kind of like working together, it was like, Heather C or Heather.
Yes.
Was she a Heather M?
I think she was just Heather and Heather C.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
had Heather
right,
and Heather C.
right.
So you're Heather C in my mind.
Yeah,
but
you're Heather C. It's like
Yeah,
The
Heather
Bachelor.
C.
It's like The Bachelor.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Right.
But we just got a history of your last name. Italy, White Locust.
Yes.
Lotus.
Lotus.
White
Wow,
Lotus.
I'm really.
Yeah.
I took some Symbiotica, and I think the brain's firing in a different way.
I
Right.
know. So we went
Fire
to
it up.
Erewhon and we were like, give us brain.
Right,
Stuff.
brain octane,
like just something to
the
like
E3 Live,
yeah,
all of that stuff.
So the woman gave us who knows what she gave us?
Right,
She could have
right.
drugged us for all we know.
100%.
And
We
we're
drugged it.
She
chugging this
microdosed you.
like
She just microdosed you.
Literally,
You guys
we're
are tripping right now. I love it.
really
I love to be on the
tripping.
podcast where
There
you're
was just,
microdosing
like,
tripping.
tons of mushrooms in this fucking
Yes.
concoction.
100%.
And now it's the white locust.
Yes,
Right, the
like-
White Locust.
So Heather is here. She brought us Erewhon smoothies. I've never
Yes.
had an Erewhon smoothie. I got the
have
berry
yours?
energy one, so we're
yes.
gonna try it, and I'm gonna tell you.
Okay,
Alright.
tell me, because I've actually never had that one either. I
Berry.
usually get the strawberry probiotic one, which is like the skinny Hailey Bieber smoothie.
Ah.
Because the Hailey Bieber smoothie actually has like over 1,000 calories, which is insane.
yeah.
That
It's
is
like
ironic.
It's like not a healthy.
It's not healthy.
Vibe.
Is this
so
a healthy
sweet.
vibe?
That's like a healthy vibe. I kind of go more of like the healthier, even though I got the Malibu mango, which see, it's this stuff. See this
The
like
cloud.
glaze?
That thing-
The cloud. This has like 1,000 calories.
That's
right
like
now.
it's like whipped milk
It
kind
is.
of, but like whipped
Right.
coconut cream.
Right. It's
Okay.
like yeah.
What is your
My
rating?
review is that it tastes like a smoothie.
Nice.
interesting.
It tastes like the one right next to my dad's house, inland, San Diego, little hut. Tastes exactly the same.
Beautiful.
But very
do,
good.
I do feel like their smoothies are dense, which I like. I'm like
It's a meal. Oh,
yeah,
this
it
is
is a
great.
meal. That one's really good.
This
That's
is like
the
a
almond
peanut butter, or almond butter banana.
Yes,
This
that
is-
one's
this
really
is it.
good.
This
that
is
one's
very
like the
good.
dessert in a cup for
It's
sure.
very
This
good, but
one's-
it's definitely a smoothie. I don't know.
Yeah.
Once
It's
Yeah.
definitely a
definitely a
smoothie.
smoothie.
well,
for
once
sure.
it gets so hyped up, you feel like you're drinking unicorn tears from Erewhon or
I mean,
something.
you might as well because
The price.
you know, obviously, I think that the three of these were like $100, but you know, it
Probably.
is what it is, right?
gold.
Because you're high, you're microdosed after, you have, you know, God knows what's in it, like the chaga,
None of us
chino.
know what's
We are
in it.
overdosing on mushrooms that we
Yeah.
know nothing about.
Right.
Nothing.
This is going to be like
Yeah.
the most interesting podcast ever because
Yeah.
we're just going to be high on Erewhon, like everyone else in LA in the known world.
It's
Is
so
Erewhon
true.
going to expand to Orange County or San Diego? Do we know?
I feel like it's going to expand to Austin. This is my prediction. Austin, not that people from Austin will like that because they're already
Why
so mad.
Austin?
Just because like everyone from
came-
LA is
yeah.
moving to Austin
Yeah.
for like the tax breaks, and like every time I go there, it is literally more LA. Like every celebrity is moving there. Every like
Big tech
big
founder,
podcaster, tech
yes.
founder, they're all there. So I feel like because it actually caters to that culture, like that
Makes
celebrity
sense.
culture, like people that are obsessed with health and wellness, like that's Austin.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's going to go to Austin, and then I feel like it's trying to tap New York, but I just don't
So
think
They're
I've
an
heard
idiot not to go
rumors.
down to Orange County and San Diego. It seems so easy and
it
obvious.
will. It'll definitely be in that like pocket of Newport where like Malibu Farm is, and like Mady,
Right.
and like the real like that little street.
Yes, Lido,
Lido.
Marina.
Exactly.
I love
It'll
Lido.
definitely tap that at some point.
Yeah,
And,
the
like,
New York of
Laguna.
it all is interesting. I think they want to keep it like in and out, where it's like California only. It's
They should.
exclusive to our coast.
Right. Well,
yeah.
In-N-Out just opened in Austin.
There
And
you
now-
go. Wait, they're following
Yes.
the in and out
They
trajectory.
are. I mean, smart
Yeah.
because like, you know, the owners just also bought a $20 million house in Malibu. Their like
Fabulous.
kids work for the brand. Like their daughter is their social media manager.
Oh,
and
the,
like,
the Erewhon daughter,
Yeah.
Heiress,
Yes.
is like
Her name is
it's
Heiress?
No,
Oh,
she's
she's
the
the
Erewhon
Heiress.
She's the
Heiress.
Erewhon
Got it,
Heiress.
got it,
She's
got
the
it.
Heiress.
Got it,
Yes.
got it.
She's like a full TikTok influencer. in her
We
own
need
right.
to get her
Yes.
on the podcast.
She's
We need to
very
get her
Gen
on the
Z.
pod.
Yeah.
Um,
And then the son does all the smoothie collaborations. So like
Oh.
he negotiates
Oh my
like
God,
the
it's a family
Sophia
business.
Richard. It's a family business.
Could you imagine your job title? Smoothie
Collaborator.
Smoothie collaborator
collaborator.
director. Smoothie collab director.
Honestly, dream job.
Right.
Yeah,
Dream
actually,
to
dream
meet-
job.
Like literally just
Yeah.
meeting up with celebrities to make a smoothie.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you ever leave Los Angeles? Like, what's your pulse on the situation?
It's so funny because I'm a New Yorker. I'm like
That's
a
right.
New York expat. So I moved here in 2011 to LA completely accidentally. Like I came in for a 1 week photo shoot that I was producing for Elle, and I sort of got this job offer and I didn't leave. I actually canceled my flight home with my now fiance, who was my boyfriend at the time, and we had just started dating for like 4 months. We came to LA together, and we actually both got offers on the same day.
Wow.
and canceled our flights home. We ended up going back to New York and like packing up things and whatever, but like it was a completely accidental move to LA. But it was so serendipitous because at what point are you and your significant other like both offered jobs at the same time? It's usually like one person gets an offer
Yeah.
and the other person has to like uproot their life or and like both people aren't happy. It was totally serendipitous.
You were meant to be
It was
here.
meant to be.
Yeah.
So it was like an accidental LA move, and it's been 13 years, and it's I'm still here. But I do often fantasize about buying property elsewhere.
Okay,
Like,
where?
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of Austin, I love Austin. I go
Yeah,
there
we
all
love
the
that.
time. My sister just moved there. It's like a 2-hour flight from LA. It's like a 2-hour flight from New York. It's kind of great. My other best friend just moved to Nashville. I feel like everyone moved to Nashville or
Don't talk to us about
Austin.
Nashville. Don't talk to us. We
And
are obsessed.
is that where you're right? But like Nashville or like outside of Nashville, like Franklin, College Grove.
Nashville. But I
Yeah.
feel like I need to explore.
Yeah.
Something about
amazing.
Nashville has
Yeah.
touched our souls.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And that's the only other city I would live in.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's insane and so beautiful. And my friend just literally like sold her house here. She's an actress. She sold her house for like, I don't know, $4 or $5 million. Bought a house that's 3 times the size for like $2 million. I mean, it's just, and she has like an acre of land and it's really beautiful and just a great place to raise kids. I mean, you have a baby, you have a daughter
So it's
in
really.
LA.
No,
I
she's
was
in
in
San
Diego,
Diego.
but
San
it's
Diego, that's
like
right.
kind of it's so interesting because I've always been ride or die San Diego, never gonna leave San Diego, and I most likely will never leave San Diego. My whole
Yeah.
family is there.
Right.
There's a really good Jewish community that I can raise my
Yeah.
daughter in, which is really important to me. But I don't know if it's the fact that once you have a kid, your freedom is a little bit
For sure.
completely restricted.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden I want to change and I want to move somewhere. And I don't know if that's me just wanting to get out of the house, right?
I
know.
Do I just need to like have
Yeah.
a vacation
So
or
like,
do I need
exactly.
to move?
I'm going
right.
to Tulum in a couple months, so we'll report back if that like
Yes.
scratched the itch for me.
Right.
But for the first time ever, and especially because I think my daughter is so young that if we were to do anything crazy, because I know San Diego's our forever place, but we also just bought a house. It would be in these years before she starts kindergarten because I want her to have a continuous school situation.
Right.
But maybe I just need to travel more, I think is what's like happening.
Yeah, but it's also tough to travel with a baby that young too. So it's kind of like
Catch 22.
right.
Well,
but
you
it is
leave
good to
her.
explore.
You leave her.
Yeah, I mean that's right. You do have a lot of family
Yeah.
here, so you can leave her. And
We leave her. We leave her.
I
Right.
drop her at Maddie's house. No, that wouldn't happen. But yes.
But where would you go?
See, that's the other question. I think it's just a romanticization.
But we were talking about Palm Springs. Like she is like a desert rat. You're a
right.
desert. Well, I wouldn't say lizard because we hate lizards. But
I
like
wouldn't say rat.
Yeah. I think lizard's better than rat, but
Yeah.
right. I mean,
she
depends.
she just like is the desert.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I am Palm Springs.
It's
You
your
are Palm
embodiment.
Springs.
You are
But
the embodiment of Palm Springs.
When I drive into Palm Springs, like my whole body, it's like
Relaxes,
I take
yeah.
a Xanax. Like there is
Wow.
something that 24 hours in that desert does to me. But
Right.
then again, like, is that my area to go to, or is that where I live? Like,
Right.
I think San Diego is my home base. I think I just am craving, like,
Yeah.
eventually maybe I have a house somewhere else that I can go to for
Yeah.
a weekend or something.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
anyways,
Because
enough
you
about
also
it.
grew up here. You guys are from.
we're from San Diego.
You're from San Diego,
Yes.
right?
Mads moved up here,
Yeah.
and then my mom's side of the family moved up here too.
Yeah,
So
right.
I get kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, because it's 2 hour. It's such an easy drive,
Yeah,
and it's like,
it's easy.
and both places are so beautiful and different, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's the one thing about California. It's like you can be in the desert, you can be in the mountains, you can be like in
Yeah.
Napa, Northern California. It's just really beautiful.
So
where-
vast.
And you there's no other place I feel like where you could just drive a couple hours and be in a completely
So
different
true.
setting. Like we have access to Orange County, LA, Santa Barbara, Palm Springs,
Right.
Joshua
Right.
Tree. Like we have everything.
Laguna, everything.
Yes.
I agree.
So,
So true.
speaking about California, you moved to Los Angeles and then you had a very, in my opinion, like stereotypical Hollywood career boom in the sense that you started working with celebrities. And like that's what everyone thinks they're gonna do, is that they're gonna come to LA and
Yeah.
either rub shoulders with celebrities or work with celebrities. But your client roster is insane, from Priyanka Chopra Jonas to Ashley Tisdale to Sara Blakely to Bethany Frankel. I mean, you worked with the creme de la creme, and you've said that you've accidentally gotten into entrepreneurship. So how did you cultivate a celebrity roster in the beginning?
Yeah, it's so interesting because again, it really sort of happened accidentally. You know, I my former career was in magazines, so I was the bookings editor of Nylon and Harper's Bazaar, and so I think I bookings editor really books all of the photo shoots, does like the photo production, casts models and things like that. So I was really working on the cover shoots and any sort of celebrity shoot that was happening at those magazines. So I think I just sort of like met publicists and, just sort of, and I think at the time too, working for a magazine was just like, magazines held all of the power. 'Cause
Yeah.
This is also like before social media. And if you wanted to promote, your brand or your product, you like had to get into a magazine. It was like, it's like why Anna Wintour, owned the fashion industry, right? Because it was like her approval or you just didn't survive. And so, now everyone's a publisher, on social media. And so everyone has their own platform. So it's just the landscape changed so much. So I think in my career, working for magazines, I sort of met publicists and people that worked with celebrities. I worked in proximity to celebrities. And then I just really started noticing, okay, our budgets at, the magazine are really dwindling. Our cover shoots that used to be like, $100,000 are now $50,000 or which is an extraordinary amount of money for a photo shoot. But I just saw the budgets dwindling and social media became more prevalent. And Instagram obviously launched in, I think, 2011, 2012, and it became this like new experimental platform. And then agencies like DBA opened where their mission was like, we can take a normal girl and make her famous. And like Ame Song and Chriselle Lim were sort of like those first sort of bloggers, right? And I started noticing how those platforms were being used and leveraged. And so when I was still working in magazines, I was like, okay, we're going to do this for the cover shoot. Then we're going to do an interview like for social or like this is the ancillary content we're going to do for like all of these digital platforms on YouTube or Instagram or whatever it was. And so I started to transition and I sort of like ushered that digital era and age into what I was doing for magazines. And at the same time, I was just becoming an advocate of social media. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, content's being diversified and we're doing more. And I just loved that sort of democratization where it's like the magazines no longer held all the power. I remember when I was at Harper's Bazaar, Giselle was on the cover. And we did this whole cover story and this whole beautiful shoot with Peter Lindbergh and whatever. And then she married Tom Brady. And we had to literally pull the magazine like off of the printing press in China. And because she was talking about like her dating life and whatever. And then she married Tom Brady. And then like by the time the magazine came out, it just was old news because it had already hit the blogs and everything. So it's just like magazines couldn't keep up. And I started to notice that pattern. I was like, okay, this is changing. This is like, and I think the music industry had just gone through a change with like the launch of the iPod and things like that. And this is, this sounds like super archaic, but at the time it was like, it was really, big. And so my now fiance was on a Disney show and he had to do things with like other actors. And we started to just like, as we moved to LA, we sort of knew nobody. We were very lonely. And, we were both working respectively, but we started to kind of cultivate this friend group of actors and things like that. And one of our best friends was Tyler Blackburn, who was on Pretty Little Liars. And I just loved him. He's like my brother, we were really close friends. And I kept telling him, I'm like, you need to get on social media. Like, this is the next big thing. You're going to be able to make so much money. Like, and he was like, yeah, everyone was kind of feeling it out because again, it was so experimental, but I was really following like what these fashion bloggers were doing, like these girls that were so early in the game. And so I started telling him, like, you really need to do this. And he didn't really listen at first, but then it was like 5 months later, he was like, can we go to dinner? I need to pick your brain about this social media thing.
Oh my God.
You were so right. All the girls on my show are getting like offers for like, these posts that are $50,000 and whatever. And he's like, you need to tell me how to do this.
Wow.
And I was like, sure, let's go to dinner and we'll talk about it. So I just, we went to dinner and I was sort of spitballing ideas. And he was like, why don't you work with me? Like, why don't you help me with this? And I'll like give you a cut of it or, whatever. And so he became my first client.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I was just transitioning out of because again, I always had a full-time job. Like I worked in corporate, I had a 9-to-5 technically, and I had a job that I loved. I really loved working for those magazines. But then I realized, okay, there's a need here. And at the time, no one was really servicing it. Like, now there are tons of social media agencies, but at the time, like there really wasn't, you know, because this was so early in the game.
But it seems like in the beginning you were more like managing someone's social media presence or account.
Yeah.
How did that then transition to all the brand building and the world building that you do now for celebrities like Frenchie with Ashley Tisdale?
Yeah. It just, you know, I think as social media became more popular, more prevalent, like, you know, it really was that democratized audience where, you know, like I really think the first person that I can remember, I'm sure other people have done it, but like it was like, you know, Kylie launching her beauty brands, right?
Yep.
It was like she launched her lip kit in 17 minutes or 17
like,
seconds. It was
Snapchat,
like,
yeah.
she sold out completely of all of the inventory. And then it was like, you know, there was this demand, people wanted it, you couldn't get it. It was like this whole thing. And, you know, I think that that's where, because prior to that, celebrities always endorsed brands, right? But they were always getting a paycheck. They were basically getting a paycheck to like show up, endorse a brand, promote a brand, do a commercial, do an infomercial, whatever that looks like, right? And then I think Kylie sort of ushered in this new genre of like, I'm not going to endorse a brand, I'm going to own the brand. You know, I'm not going to like sell the bread, I'm going to own the bakery.
Yeah.
And I think that trend sort of caught on with certain celebrities, and it almost like caught on too much because I think like everyone and their mother is now launching a brand, right?
Yeah.
But I think that was always the part that I was most interested in, because like I'm most interested in helping someone like tell their story on social media, like, you know, help them strategically plan the whole thing. And, you know, and I think when it came to brand launching, it was like that to me is the deepest level of storytelling that you can really, you know, create, because you want a brand that's authentic to you. You want to, you know, not just like slap your name on something and be like, okay, this is, you know, this is what I'm selling, right?
Yeah.
I think it was like Kylie did it, and then Jessica Alba obviously did it with Honest, and that was like a really big deal because we saw Jessica Alba go from having this identity as this woman in entertainment, this actress, to this like billion-dollar entrepreneur. And that was like a massive identity shift.
Yeah.
And I think other people didn't even feel like that was possible for them until they saw her do it. And then they were like, oh, wait, this is something.
Yeah. So why do you think some celebrity brands work and some don't? Because we just were saying that now it feels like everyone and their mother is launching
So
something. I mean,
saturated.
I'd love to hear your thoughts even about Kylie and now Sprinter. And it's like, it feels like there's too much going on now. So why do some work and some don't?
And in addition, can we get your opinion on why a celebrity should launch a brand or why they shouldn't? Like, not only why they work and they don't, but like, if a celebrity wants to launch a brand, what are the qualifiers that you would say do it or don't do it?
Yeah, it's so funny because I think the brands that really work from celebrities are ones that solve actual problems and also ones that feel really authentic to them. You know, like for example, like Jessica Alba launched Honest because she was like, I found, you know, a hole in the market for non-toxic baby products, right? And then, you know, she pitched that idea, she got a million no's, and then she eventually brought that brand to fruition with Brian Lee. Kylie, same thing. Like she got some work done, and it was like it was very buzzworthy. And then she built the lip kit, which was like a 2 product, but it was a hero product. You know, I think brands that also focus on hero products, it's like Summer Fridays with the jet lag mask, like
Hero products.
Yeah, hero products like really stand out in the market, but also there needs to be a point of differentiation. So, you know, like. And also, there has to be some sort of authentic story, you know? So, like, if you're just a celebrity that's, like, slapping your name on a brand and just bringing it to life, it tends to not work. But I do think that there are some celebrities that are sort of like unicorns where they can kind of sell not anything, but it just works. It's like Selena Gomez, Rihanna.
I was gonna say Selena Gomez, because Rare Beauty, it does so well, but like I wouldn't at first glance be like, Selena Gomez, you are obsessed with makeup,
Beauty.
like you're like a makeup person, you know? So it's interesting that one does so well. And also Rihanna with Fenty, it's just like,
Also, like, you know how we say we don't need another skincare brand, but Scarlett Johansson started the Outset. And my first impression was another celebrity launching another brand.
Right.
But I heard her on a podcast telling her story. And she says that she has acne-prone skin like I do. And all the makeup that she was using on set would break her out. And then she would try these products that had a lot of acids in them, and that would break her out. And she didn't know how to find products that wouldn't break her out for her acne-prone skin. So she literally built the outset, and she's like, I use every single one because I know that it's not going to break my skin out because I have acne-prone skin.
Right.
And I was like, is this real, or is this like a celebrity marketing trap? Because I think at this point, when celebrities come out with a new brand, we're looking for that authenticity.
Right.
And I just kind of decided, I was like, no, she's being real. Like, she literally built this because of that. And now I literally almost like, I use the Outset cleanser and the Outset moisturizer every single day, and it transformed my skin.
Right.
You can feel it in the bones of the brand if the celebrity is actually involved. Like Chamberlain Coffee, you can feel
100%.
her in that.
Yes, of course. And they're selective about what they do.
For sure.
And it was like that with Ashley Tisdale too, because Ashley kind of came to me, it was like 2019. It was actually like before the pandemic. And she's like, I have this idea for this like little sister brand to a Goop. You know, she's like, and basically her story was so interesting because she did a cosmetics line before.
Yeah, that failed. I love her story.
Yeah, and so she did Illuminate Cosmetics, and she kind of came to me like with this just idea. And, you know, and like there was so much vulnerability in her story because she's like, I'm not even sure that I can actually like do another brand successfully. You know, Illuminate like really failed. She got into like a really terrible partnership. It wasn't so authentic to her story. And I think like through that failure, it sort of catapulted her into this sort of journey with, you know, with wellness and meditation. And she really suffered from anxiety, and she got really into manifestation and things like that. And it brought her so much closer to herself. And, you know, when she met with me, she's like, I don't even know that I can do another brand. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if this will be successful. Do people want this? Do people want this from me? And, you know, we just started working on, we were like, let's launch a community. Like, let's launch a community with all of the things that you've learned. Like, obviously she has access to some, you know, amazing like meditation teachers and, you know, people like that. And so we sort of started it as a community to incubate ideas. And then, you know, a product line sort of spawned from that community, which is amazing because there's market research. We could understand, you know, what are people really looking for? And you know, and her publicists and team at the time too, they were like, let's target this for moms, and let's target this for like women who are like 35, who are Ashley's age. And we were like, no, this is like a Gen Z wellness brand. This is about rituals. This is about like if you can't afford a spa day and you want to like turn your bathroom into a spa, and with, you know, scents and mood science and things like that. That's what, you know, we really sort of went a different direction, which was, you know, which is great that we did that because it went viral on TikTok. She sold out of, you know, over a year's worth of inventory in less than 5 months at Target, which is also really hard to do.
Really hard.
But it was so authentic to her. And like she was involved in every single step of the way, just, you know, and so.
I feel like her story, I've heard her on podcasts a million times. Her story is such an indication of why celebrity brands don't work and why they do.
Right,
because she did kind of like just throw her face on this thing. She was like, oh, I'm going to get into business. Like, sorry, I'm paraphrasing her words, but I'm going to get into business. And she says, you know, it was not what she thought it was. And it was a lot harder, and it was a bad partnership. And then she created something that had her soul in it, and it worked. So I want to kind of go back a little bit, because there are so many people that are social media agencies, you know, they'll run a brand social, et cetera. And at this point, it's exhausting, and you don't necessarily know who's great and who's not great. And it's kind of like bare bones minimum for a lot of these agencies. Yeah. And I've obviously personally worked with you. I brought you in to do an amazing VIP consulting day with my team at Scouts Agency, and like transformed the way we thought about how we show up to social as a business. And then your team also built out the brand behind Review, my new editorial site. And I have seen your brain work firsthand. And there's a level of you live and breathe brand building, social storytelling in a way that I really haven't seen in many other people who talk about social media. Like, some people are like, the strategy, like post this many times a day and hashtag this and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. You almost know how to take the soul of something, and you're looking for something with the soul, and infuse it into the storytelling via social. And I think it's such a different way of looking at it. I don't even know the question here other than like,
How does that happen?
How did you get to this very specific way of looking at social and helping brands?
Yeah, it's so interesting because, you know, to me, like saying to post 3 times a day on TikTok is not a strategy. Those are tactics.
Yeah.
Like that comes after the strategy. So many people, you know, like all the social media experts and things on TikTok are always talking about like the tactical, but positioning it as a strategy. It's not, you know? And basically for me, it's like I'm so obsessed with marketing because I'm a self-educated, you know, marketing expert, because I realized, and this was just from like being in the rooms with like VPs of marketing for the brands that I was launching and for the, you know, celebrities I was launching it with or the talent I was launching it with, I realized like how little people actually know about marketing and really how little people understand about marketing psychology. So, you know, running someone's social media and creating content is not exactly like fully understanding marketing psychology. Like we need to understand the levers that we can pull in order to like actually like make people to take action or to like agitate them to make a sale. Or it's like, why are we obsessed with certain brands and what other brands fail and like those kind of things. And I think that's where like, you know, people need to read between the lines and really understand like what makes people tick. And then once you sort of understand that too, and that's like sort of what I've always been obsessed with, like studying and learning. And there are just, you know, things that, you know, you understand about like psychology and the way people buy and take action that a lot of brands just don't understand.
Do you have any resources for? I was going to say you need to write a book for sure, but like, are there any resources? I know that you're self-taught, but is there a way that people could maybe learn a little bit more about this? Because I agree. I think there is a lot of tactics and a lot of that. It's all tactics.
And then people wonder why it doesn't work and then they get burnt out.
Right. Because that's the thing, like, you know, and we talked about this at length, but like social media becomes like a black hole of just time and energy, and it's like a succubus, and it can just like suck everything out of you because so many people try so hard and then they just don't see results, and they're like, I'm showing up, I'm doing the things, I'm taking the action, and then it just like the algorithm they just can't boost themselves through the algorithm, and then they get buried and they feel invisible, and it's really tiring and frustrating. But you know, to your question in terms of like resources, this is so funny, but I learned everything I know about marketing by watching Jamie Kern-Lima on QVC.
Yeah, her story's freaking fascinating.
Her story is so fascinating. And I used to actually, and my fiance used to come in the room and he'd be watching me like watch QVC on YouTube. He'd be like, what are you doing? Like, you're not like, why are you watching QVC? You're not like a QVC customer. And I'm like, no, but there's something about like, you know, QVC, and like, QVC moves product. So I'm like, they're doing something right. Like they understand. And especially as I was transitioning from like personal social to like brand and marketing, I was like, there's something there. And so I would just watch hours and hours of it. And because they essentially have like 8 minutes to sell like 10,000 units of a product. Wow. And if they don't sell out, they're basically like cut immediately from that spot, because like QVC has a spot and you have to make a certain amount of money to like basically maintain that spot. And if you can't sell out of a product, which is incredibly hard to sell 10,000 units in 8 minutes, especially if you're not like a celebrity or have like a built-in sort of fan base. And so I just started watching it. I just binged it, and there were just certain things that I learned where I was like, okay, this is how you sell. Because it really ultimately, like as a business owner, you need to sell to stay alive. Yeah. Like you need to be able to sell your service or sell your product or sell your brand or sell like your magic or genius. And if you don't know how to do that, you're not going to be a successful entrepreneur.
Okay, we have to talk about selling for a second. I'm so happy you said that, because I feel like selling has gotten such a bad rep from people. Like, they're the people going door to door, or like they're scamming you, or whatever. But I've really recognized in myself that I'm like a natural born salesperson, and I never realized it. And being able to sell is one of the most underrated skills one can have, because no matter what economy you're in, no matter what situation, if you can sell, you can make money for yourself and provide for your family at any given time. I remember looking back, I was like, oh my God, I was fucking hustling shit when I was young and I didn't even realize it. I worked at a gelato shop when I was 20, and I had to wear this like tight V-neck, you know, the American Apparel like V-neck, and it had the gelato logo on it. And I wore these like tight little black spandex shorts that was dirty, and I never washed it.
You were like whoring
gelato.
I'm like, are you like whoring yourself out that you're selling
I'm like, is this like Italian Hooters? Like, you know, like there's like just a line of men waiting to see Scout in spandex.
I was hustling at the gelato shop. My titties out.
Wait, I did use my body to sell more gelato. Just wait for the story. But it was to women, not men.
Right.
So I would eat. So I learned all about gelato because the guy who ran the shop was from Italy and came here to open an authentic gelato shop.
Yeah.
He brought all the equipment from Italy. He went to like Gelato University. There's literally Gelato University in Italy.
GU.
So he
I want to go to GU. Oh my God, what a
he
gift.
taught me all these things about how, you know, I don't remember all the points, but basically it was like that gelato is a fraction of the calories in ice cream because there's a lot of air in it. They don't use the heavy whipping cream like ice cream. And there's all these different facts that it is just such a better alternative to ice cream, and that there's some nutritional value in some of it. And so I was, you know, like broke and didn't really have money back then because I was working at the fucking gelato shop.
Right.
And so we got free gelato. So I ate gelato for lunch every day. And the equivalent of like being on my feet all day long and eating gelato, I lost like 3 pounds working there in like a month and a half.
Gelato diet.
Yeah, I was like,
So
wow.
these girls would come and they'd be like, okay, I'm going to get the really small one. And I'd be like, no, girl, did you know that gelato is half the amount of calories than ice cream? I eat it every single day for lunch. I call it,
You're
no,
like,
I said,
and look at my-
I call it the gelato diet, and I've lost 3 pounds in 6 weeks. And I would come around the corner and be like, look, I eat it every day.
You're like, look at my spandex.
Every single girl would be like, get me a large. And I was
Sold that
selling
gelato.
gelato. And I look back and I'm like, holy shit, I was selling when I was 20 and I didn't even realize that's what I was doing.
Right.
This brings me to the point of, in my business, I think that even if you're a natural born seller, it's hard to like really identify what the story is for your business sometimes because you're so close.
Right.
So when you came over, you're like, Scout, stop fucking posting photos of your account managers. No one's fucking hiring you because you have a cute team.
Right.
They're hiring you
Right.
for the transformations. And so I think that sometimes when you're so in it and it's been years, it's hard to see the really great picture. And sometimes you have to refresh the story.
Right.
What are some things that if anyone's listening and they have a brand or they want to build a brand, what are some things that you see that people just do wrong all the time?
Oh my gosh, it's a very long list. But, you know, essentially, like Ed Milet said, people don't want to buy what you're selling. They want to buy what you believe in that you're selling, right?
Yeah.
Like people are buying into your belief about your products, not like more so than even the product, right? And when people buy things, they really buy 3 things. They buy energy, confidence, and permission. Like that's what they're really buying.
Say that again.
Every time.
Yeah.
Energy, confidence, and permission. So energy is like, they want to know. That's why so many people are also obsessed with like who's the founder of this brand, because they want to know like who's behind it.
People
what's
tell me
their
all the
energy
time
like.
at the end of calls, I
Yes.
love your energy. I want to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Because people want to buy into people that they like genuinely want to spend time with or want to learn from. And, you know, that's where like as an entrepreneur, it's important that you have that embodiment of like your success or your own transformation, right? So that's a big one. And also people want to trust who they're buying from. Like no one's going to buy anything from you if they don't trust you. So it's just that's an important one. And then confidence is like, you know, we're all trying to better ourselves. I think we live in sort of this, you know, attention economy, and we're always looking to, you know, become a better person, wife, mother, sister, like whatever it is, entrepreneur, boss, like all of those sort of things. And so the confidence piece is like, you know, and as you both know, as like entrepreneurs, you have to move past that self-doubt. It's like, you know, self-doubt is what really holds us back. Self-worth is our ceiling all the time. So it's like anyone that's going to sort of guide us beyond that, to just like believe in ourselves, to play bigger, dream bigger, show up bigger, whatever that is. And permission is just, you know, that piece as well. And so that's like really what people are buying from you. And I find that the biggest mistake that people make is that when they go to market their services, they're marketing like the what, you know?
Yeah.
They're like, it's like, you know, they're like if you work with me, you're going to get like 1 call a month, and people don't give a shit about like 1 call a month, 10 calls a month. Like they want to know how you're actually going to transform them, how your service or your product is going to actually make their lives better. And, you know, there's someone named Donald Miller who created this, you know, story brand, which is like a really famous marketing book, which everyone should read.
What is it called?
Building a story brand. I built it. I read it. Jesus fucking Christ.
The mushrooms.
The Air One.
Yeah.
The Air One. I have Air One brain.
Yes.
I read it and I implemented it like year 2 of my business, and my sales picked up so like by 30 or 40% within 4 months. He's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. And what he really says is like, you know, when you're marketing your business or your brand, like you sort of like put yourself in the spotlight, but really like your audience should be in the spotlight. So your audience or like the buyer is the hero and you're the guide. So like your audience or your customer is Harry Potter and you're Dumbledore, right? And like your job is to like basically empower Harry to become like the best wizard he can be, right? Most people like think that they're Harry Potter. They think that like they're on the hero's journey and they're not. So that's like the one fix that you can make really easily is just like sort of shifting that spotlight from just talking about yourself and sort of what you offer, because again, people want to know like how you can transform them and like what that looks like on the other side. So like you want to actually sell the transformation, not the product necessarily.
I'm trying to have this translate into my company and what
I'm doing
I
the
do.
same, and I
Because
don't.
it's tricky for me, but
don't
it's
know how.
well, not the issue. The challenge with my brand is that we don't sell anything. We are a brand that delivers Los Angeles recommendations,
right.
restaurants,
You're a
places to go.
resource.
I'm a resource.
You're a resource.
And the trust piece is definitely there. People see my face and they're immediately like, oh yeah, I like this girl's recommendations. I'm going to
Wait,
trust
do you
whatever
know
she
her
posts.
brand?
Of course, Camper.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we run social for Westfield Century City, and so we've done. Emma on my team has like reached out to you. We've done like collabs with you. Yeah.
Oh my God, yes,
we all love it.
Oh my God,
so much.
The Century City Ball is in every meme I do.
Yes,
always,
and we love it.
So so for us, I mean, yes, our app, like that's going to be the selling point a little later on when it fully launches.
Right.
But right now, it's really about growing the community, growing the following and the audience. So for me, I love that distinction because I do sometimes see myself as Harry Potter rather than Dumbledore.
Everyone does.
Yeah,
It's
because
natural.
it is my face on it.
Yeah.
But I agree that like I'm the one delivering the recommendations. This is what is giving these people permission to discover, to transform their experience in LA. But yeah, it's how do I get the community even more involved in the content or
Ooh, let's talk about that real quick. I want to hit on that community building. So for like businesses that aren't necessarily like I sell in Scouts Agency, obviously I'm signing people.
Yeah.
But for something like this podcast where it's community building or Camber, which is resource and community building, or like my editorial site that I'm launching.
Yeah.
What is the way that we can create content the right way and sell, but that's not like a direct, do you know what I mean?
it's not like
I mean, you want to like people buy emotionally or they invest time emotionally because like time is our biggest currency. So like, and that's why I think like the whole thing where, you know, hooks on TikTok, it's like you got to lead with a strong hook to really like hook someone in. It's because people want to know I'm going to like, if I'm going to give you 30 seconds of my time, what am I receiving? Right. And it's really that like exchange, right? That's like an energy exchange. So for you and for community building, it's like people invest time or they invest money, you know, they buy emotionally. So it's like, what are the emotional outcomes of like energetically exchanging with your content, right? So like if someone follows Camber and, you know, sort of dials into the resources, it's like, how does it make them feel? They feel empowered, they feel educated, they feel in the know when their friends or their significant other or like families coming to town, like they have things to do. They know, like, and that's an incredible resource because people want to know how to spend their time effectively because we're just not in this era of people just sort of like, you know, being la-di-da about time and
they want to know the best of the best and they want it right then and there and they want to the decision fatigue and the overwhelm of information.
Yes.
And they want it from someone that they resonate with.
Right. But they want, like for you, it's all about authority building. So it's like you are an authority in this space and that's like you want to position yourself as an authority because again, decision fatigue, all of those things, like those are like the outcomes that you produce. And that's what you're eradicating like emotionally for your audience. So it's like the more you sort of lean into that authority content, that's what's going to like, again, have people trust you, resonate, you know, your recommendations really work. They go in once they lean into the recommendations, they're like, wow, that shit was really good and they, you know, they keep coming back for more. So for you, it's like really about authority.
Yeah.
And for you too.
Also, like I love what you said about the pain points, because I think that when you build a brand, it is, I think, such a great question that you helped me see at my agency was like, what are our clients' pain points? Like the people who watch Camber, their pain point could be, I just moved to LA. It's so overwhelming.
I don't know. It's so overwhelming.
I don't know where to go.
What do I do?
What's the inside scoop? Do I need a reservation here? Do I need da-da-da? And if you provide that to them, which you do in a friendly, trustworthy, et cetera, whatever, you've closed that pain point. And I think sometimes when we should do an exercise together after this about what is, hi sisters, everyone listening.
What is the pain point?
What is the
of
pain point of our community, and
Yeah.
how does our podcast fill that pain point? Because once you have those markers, then you know everything you do. Are we fulfilling the pain point? Are we providing the transformation that our community is looking for? That's when you get, I believe, really, really honed in on that emotional piece that lets people feel supported and loved and, you know, whatever.
Right. And like one like hook that I see on social work really well, like, and again, these trends and this, you know, they change every like few months, but it's like my honest review of, because there's so much bullshit. Like, there's so much bullshit. There's so many people like being paid. The lines are so blurred between like, is this honest? Is it sponsored? Like what, you know, and like with, like when I worked with Bethany Frankel too, it's like that was her whole strategy on TikTok. It was like my honest review of, and she would just annihilate. Like if it was like a Chanel bronzer, whereas like every other influencer is like tiptoeing around, you know, Chanel or Dior products because like they really want to be in with those brands. Bethany was like, this is shit. Like, because she just really didn't care. She's like, I will buy my own Chanel. Chanel will never work with me, but like, that's fine because I'll work with all these other brands, you know? And it's like, that like it created so much loyalty. Like she moved so much product because people were like, I fucking trust her because she's saying that this drugstore product, and you know, Bethany has like all the money in the world. She could do whatever she wants. And like she doesn't own makeup over $50. Like she just really doesn't. Like authentically, I could say that. Like she was going through my makeup bag and she's like, this Patrick Ta product is like fake news. You know that, right? And I'm like, okay, you know, but like it just, she and that's
knows.
behind the scenes. Like that's just who she is.
I read her book, and that really, like, who she is came super, super to the forefront in that way.
Right.
What about people who are doing lifestyle brands? Like, I know you worked for magazines, and selfishly, I'm just interested in where you think, because with Frenchie, the strategy was to launch this kind of blog site, right? To create that community. Where do you see more generalized lifestyle content outlets going versus specific brands that are very niche, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a,
Even with magazines, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's such a general question because people like end up buying into like the way you relate to something, because we do like live in this like opinion economy, right? And like I think of like there's just so many sort of brands that can become successful now that like would have just never become successful 10 years ago. Like for example, Miss Excel, like on Instagram and TikTok, like she makes $1 million a month teaching programs about Excel, like
oh wow,
like Excel
I don't know
sheets,
who she is.
like Google Sheets.
Yeah, she just like shows you how to do Google Sheets.
She just shows you how to be like a ninja at Google Sheets, and it's just like the most. I mean, could we pick a more boring ass topic? But it's also something that like everyone kind of needs to know, and we need the hacks and we need the tricks. And it's like she makes like I think over $1 million a month now. Wow. Like that just like would never have existed.
She's making more than Miss Rachel.
Oh shit!
I mean,
Miss
she's
Rachel.
like killing it, right?
Yeah.
So it's so subjective because it's like the fact that she's so turned on and lit up by Excel like makes us all want to be like better at Excel, right? Like it's a weird. So again, like it's sort of, you know, when it comes to lifestyle content or just content in general, like you can be lit up about sort of anything as long as you are all fucking in.
It's the all in.
It's the all in. Like your energy, like you need to be 100%. It has to, it's like a fuck yes or a fuck no. Like we sort of live in that place. And, you know, and again, like you could incubate ideas like with your, you know, as your brand is launching, like there's things that you can incubate and be like, wow, audience is really responding to this. Like, let's lean into this more.
So this is kind of a vague question. You can be a fuck yes into things, but over time, you get a little fatigued by that specific situation.
For sure.
Raising hand over here.
Raising
Yes.
hand.
I mean, all of us. Yeah,
all of us.
100%.
So I'm like, for example, I look at, Lauren Bostic, and I just fucking admire the longevity and I admire the sustainability
Right.
and how the brand has evolved in a way that makes sense. And she's had different iterations she's built out different, et cetera. And I think in today's like super niche stuff, which I have found, I'll probably cut this part out just so you can get the question better. But, podcast tours, one thing, niche, great. After a while, how much more do I fucking say about podcast tours? And you get really exhausted. And then the all-in becomes inauthentic because you're just nailing the hammer into the thing. And so it's like, if someone's building a brand, how can we build a brand that has room to grow with iterations? Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. And just to take Lauren Bostic as a great case study of this, she has evolved her brand so much. You almost like think it's like
the same thing.
You think it's the same thing, and you think she's moved like 1 degree to the left, to the left, to the left. But if you think about like really over the past, let's say 10 years of her career, like she has completely almost obliterated her blogging days of just how she showed up as a blogger. She's almost like eradicated that with the podcast and like thought leadership and those kind of things. And, and her brand has evolved so much because even like 4 years ago, she was doing more brand deals. And obviously then she went into doing like
collaborations,
more product collaborations. And now she's almost like abandoned that to doing more product. And, and she's like, I'm not a beauty brand, I'm a routines brand. Like she's very specific about that. And she's sort of like, she just keeps evolving because she keeps getting information. And she almost like, she'll incubate certain ideas, like the mouth tape, for example, where it's like nobody's really talking about mouth tape, or mouth tape is like some like
that was the most fucking genius thing.
It was.
We need to take a moment. We need to take a moment because no one really realizes what that girl did versus what anyone else would have done.
For sure.
What she did is she talked about mouth taping for a year.
Right.
She took photos of herself in ugly blue ass mouth tape for a year. Right. She had somebody on the podcast to talk all about mouth taping before her product even launched.
Right.
And then she launched her product. Most people would have brought in the person on after the mouth tape was launched.
Exactly.
And posted the photos after, but she legitimately was so patient.
She primed her audience.
She primed her audience like I have legitimately never seen anybody else do in a world where we are obsessed with like saving all of the content and the momentum for launch.
Right.
When she launched it, I was like, oh my God. Because I've been keeping tabs on how many times that woman said mouth taping. She brought it up in random episodes to random people.
Exactly.
It was so genius.
For
because
sure.
and the genius part about it was the patience and the priming.
Right.
And most people don't have the long-term vision or the foresight or the commitment to do patience and priming.
Right. And that's like really what her genius is, because she's going to like incubate it. Like, and and she's kind of like, I call her like the Bala Bangles, like of like the routines industry, because she's just taking stuff that is like ugly on Amazon, like the ice rollers, like they've existed, right? But she's like innovating on it. She's making it better. She's making it more beautiful. She's making it more effective. She's making it colder longer. And, she's like making the products that she wants for herself.
But she also didn't just make a fucking skincare line either.
No, for sure, because she just would never do that.
Yeah.
She just like, she's going to basically like create the products that she knows her audience is going to love, because she's talked about ice rolling for like 5 years because of her jaw surgery and things like that, right? So it's
storytelling.
It's storytelling. And then it's just about innovating. Like, I think people get overwhelmed because they're like, I need to reinvent the wheel, and I have to like, create something that hasn't existed before. And like, that's also great. It's great to do that, especially in like a very crowded space. It's awesome to differentiate. It's awesome to stand out. But like, you can just innovate and make something better that is, again, just so true to your brand DNA and true to your storytelling and true to like, I think, the products that she's created have come from like the struggles that she's experienced, right? Like when she had jaw surgery and like she did a Zoom, and then she like, I guess she was working with a brand, and they thought that she had hung up and she was still on, and they were like making fun of her.
Oh, I heard
the
way
story, she looked with her jaw, because she had jaw surgery, her face was really puffy, and like she just experienced a lot of setbacks with that, and so she would ice roll, and it just, again, it becomes such a part of her storytelling.
Yeah. Do you have a question? Or-
Yeah, I was going to ask about personal branding. And I know that you have like a tip that that holds people back or that holds female founders back when it comes to
But
personal
also,
branding.
ironically, the woman who is a seven-figure business owner and has worked with all the celebrities and has
Does
accumulated
not
the
post on
business-
Instagram.
Your clients have amassed over $30 million this year that you've helped them make. You don't really have a personal brand. So tell us the tips of what we should be doing in our personal brand.
I know. And I'm actually going to start I've really like been focusing on my own content because it's just so, it's like, I just am so lit up by like building everybody else's brands and I get so involved and it's just so like, I almost like don't have time for my own, but it is something that I really want to, start doing because it's just, it's important because I feel like I'm gatekeeping a lot of this information. But, I think working with celebrities and working with female entrepreneurs, like very high net worth individuals and everyone in between, it's like there's a part of someone, there's like everyone has a part of their story that they almost like don't want to share, right? Or they feel like it's like their flaws. They're like, this is too vulnerable. This is too weird. Like there's some sort of part of themselves that they really sort of hold secret because they just don't think their audience will relate to it or they're ashamed or it's too vulnerable. And like, that's actually the piece that is the most connective for your audience. Like any kind of flaw that you have, anything that you're sort of like hiding, like, anything that you're kind of keeping in the shadow, like that's the stuff that I really encourage like all of my clients to come forward with because that's the thing that ends up being like the most connective or people end up like resonating with the most. It's like that those parts of ourselves that we tend to hide. And so, and anytime I've worked with someone who's really like, I have this story, but I'm just, holding back because I just don't think it's resonant or I don't think people will relate to my lifestyle. Or, I had a client who travels all the time and she would travel first class or she would be like, I don't want people to see that I'm like going on this extravagant trip and it's like, you are an expander. Like, yes, people are very triggered by, and I think Lauren Bossack also gets this because she's flying private or she's like on a yacht and people are like, she makes so much money now, she's unrelatable or whatever. It's like, there are just parts of your story that like you have to embrace because, we all need expanders. We need people that are expanding us like for what we think is possible from, a wealth perspective or a brand perspective. We need to know that we can be making like $100,000, 1 year and have a $10 million brand in the next 5 years. Like we need to know that that's possible for ourselves. So I find that women, especially men, don't give a shit. Like men will be like, I'm flying private, I'm doing all these things. And they'll just like literally shout it from the rooftops. And you don't need to share everything, but it's like some of those things that we feel like are too, like when we're too much for people. And this is just a problem that women have. This is just something that women experience specifically.
Yeah.
Like that's the stuff that I always say to share.
We've talked a lot about this on the podcast because I ran into a problem last year where I felt as if there's a trap with the personal brand stuff, which is that we can focus so much on it and content creating for the personal brand because we think it supports the bigger business, but then we neglect the bigger business.
Right.
And the personal brand content creation doesn't actually catapult you. Like the energy, if you took away 50% of the energy on that bucket and put it into the bucket of the business would go up. So I've really taken a step back from social myself.
Right.
And I'm trying to rethink about who I am as a personal brand on the internet, not relating to the title of content creator, not relating to the title of influencer, but wanting to build a brand that I see the next 10 years of very clearly, but I'm having difficulties placing where I land in it as the personal brand because part of me doesn't want to put my face on my editorial site because I don't want it to be a blog. I want it to be editorial and I don't want it to be all about me. I want it to be about everybody else. But we live in a world where there is that founder trust that people love. So like Goop is Goop because of Gwyneth Paltrow. Poosh is Poosh because of Kourtney Kardashian. Frenchie's Frenchie because of Ashley Tisdale.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the balance in building out businesses that aren't necessarily like our, like an influencer account, right? My face.
Yeah.
But having a personal brand that is complementary to it, but doesn't take away your energy.
I think, I'll give an example of how I've seen this been done really well. And I think the solution is you really can only afford to build that big of a personal brand after you've built the business. One, because you then have a lot of teachings. You have so much wisdom to deliver.
Yeah.
The person that I think of the most is Alex Lieberman, the founder of Morning Brew. He built Morning Brew. He sold Morning Brew. Now he is a huge thought leader. All he really does is podcast, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And he's amazing. But like he doesn't really do Morning Brew anymore.
Right.
But like he couldn't have gotten there unless he built Morning Brew. And I don't think he even could have done everything he's doing right now in tandem with Morning Brew.
Right.
So
You're so
I
right.
kind of think it's like you build it and then you can be that. Yes, of course you could share along the way, whatever. But I just don't think it needs to be the focal point. Whereas like right now, that's his focal point.
Yeah.
I don't think it could have been the same time.
Yeah, because I
Right.
see myself, I was writing in my journal and I was calling in my future self to give me advice. And it was like, what do I really want? I want to be respected for the work that I do versus the personal brand that I personally cultivated.
Right.
I want my work to create my personal brand versus my personal brand create my work.
Right.
And that can get like difficult to weed through when we see people always on the internet. And we obviously I live in the space. It's been a huge unlearning for me to figure out what works for me. So
I think someone also that you should look to is Sif from Array, right? So she is building Array, and it is actually in tandem with her. She did have a personal brand before.
she does do a little bit more. She's coming on the podcast. I can't wait to talk to her. She does do a little more content creation than
she
even
does.
I am.
But she was a content creator
interested.
before,
She was
so
a content creator before. Yeah.
Right.
Anyways, but
And sometimes
So basically,
and
what's
so-
my personal brand?
right. And listen, sometimes it's not so like it's like chicken and egg, right?
Yeah.
Because you could be building an amazing brand and also like building a personal brand if that's what really fulfills you and makes you happy, where they're like happening synonymously. Because like Sif, for example, is like building Array, and then she like has her podcast and she has like, you know, her personal sort of like content vertical, and like it's a driver. They drive to each other, but they also kind of like stand alone, right?
Yeah. I guess that's what this podcast is for me.
Yeah, right. And the thing is like, I think with you, with like your new brand too, it's like you're going to like, that's going to deliver value to people because your like level of curation and your experience like as an entrepreneur and like the people that you're interviewing, things like that, it's going to just bring so much value. Like any brand that brings value to somebody is going to do well, like when it's really specific and it's really nuanced and it really like is clear about what it's delivering, right? Like Morning Brew, it's like very clear about like what that delivers as a brand, who it helps, like who it serves, right? So it's like that just has to be dialed in. And you're the person too who's like, you know, you're doing this podcast, you're interviewing entrepreneurs, like you're like in the mix, right? And so they tend to feed each other. And I think that the lines are becoming like a little bit more blurred than ever, because it used to be just like you worked behind a brand and you built that and then, you know, exited, because you can't actually exit a personal brand.
Yeah.
Like, if you want- and
that's
that's
where Maddie's falling into
Right.
a trap right now a little bit. Yeah.
Right. But like, you know, with Camber, it's like you could sell Camber, right? You could sell what you're building. That's, you know,
Well, no, because her face is so on camera.
no, but I could still sell it.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
You can still sell it and still be the face of it for a certain amount of time and then have someone else take over. It's like, you know, and then you can also, again, evolve it where your face is coming out of it a little bit more. So it just, there's a trajectory. But, you know, if you're like, you know, Mady.com and that's just, that's it. It's like that. I mean, because there have been some influencers that have actually sold their personal brand. They actually end up selling their name. And then like a bigger conglomerate owns their name. They have to like actually change their name. So it's like, it's just.
It's hard.
It's
Yeah.
harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I guess that's where Lauren Bostic did it right too, because the Skinny Confidential is not her name.
Right. Well, because if she wants to exit, you know, it's like you always want to begin with the end in mind. I think that's why it's important to have, you know, a name and a company that like some, you know, something kind of it can be absorbed where
that makes sense.
Right.
The long game.
Okay, I could talk to obviously.
I know.
You
We could talk.
You
We
know.
could talk to you forever.
And we will, you know,
Yeah,
we'll be talking a lot offline too.
I love every time I talk to you. It is so invigorating and so supportive, and it doesn't feel overwhelming,
Likewise.
and it feels
Yeah.
really inspiring. Really inspiring. What you've built is incredible. You are a model of an agency owner, a business, an entrepreneur,
Thanks.
etc. You're about to launch a new brand I want to hear about. But first, before you tell all the details around that, we ask every woman who comes on OK Sister podcast this. If you could brag about one thing and you weren't allowed to be humble, what would you brag about?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know. I think like my biggest flex is that, I just like I love my clients, I love the famous people I've worked with, but like I really love building a team and running a business and a company that like is so different from the ones that I worked in when I was 20, 21. I worked at Condé Nast. It was scary. It was like toxic. Every woman was like looking over her shoulder to see who was going to like stab her in the back to get her position. Or it was like this really weird, it was just like this really like fucked up toxic club almost. And I just love that I've just built a culture that's so different than that, and I think that has to be the biggest flex, because that's always what I set out to do. And I've achieved that. So, the celebrity names and like the shiny objects are fun and great and whatever. But like, if I could not do like this piece, it just wouldn't feel fulfilling. So I think that that's the biggest flex.
You know what? I concur with that in my own personal life, because I built a work culture that is so awesome that they told us that we couldn't build as women.
Right.
And it is, you're right, one of the most fulfilling parts of the whole process.
Yeah. It really is.
Okay, tell everybody about Lever and what we can expect and where to find that and you and all the things.
Yeah. So the Lever is a new brand that I am launching. It'll be live on May 5th. And it's really exciting. And it's really just about, it's a membership. It's also a podcast really talking to like some really incredible, like 8-9-figure entrepreneurs, unfiltered stories about, how certain women disrupted their way into being like, a 7-8-9-figure entrepreneur. And the membership is all about it's called The Lever, and it's just about having these different levers you can pull in your like personal life, in your professional life, in your brand. There's lots of like personal brand tips. There's lots of like social media strategy, personal brand building, but also just like a lot of mindset and a lot of like more of the emotional stuff that we need to be able to get there. So it's really exciting.
Yeah,
so,
I love it.
I'll give you both access.
Yeah, where can we find you, Lever, all the things?
Yeah, so that's workthelever.com, and it's at The Lever on Instagram and TikTok. And then you can find me at Heather Catania on Instagram. I'm not on TikTok.
Oh.
Yeah, good for you.
Good for you. Good for you.
Okay, sisters, thank you so much. We love you. You can find us on Instagram at OKSisterPod. Love you.
Love you. Oh,
That was so cute.
Amazing. Well, you and I could talk for freaking years.